Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Be a Great Math Teacher. My name is Rachel Anderson, and I'm here to walk you through this workshop. Just a little bit about me. I am a homeschooling mom of 15 years already. I can't believe it's gone by that fast. I have one student who's graduated already, and another one who is supposed to graduate this year. We'll see what happens with this COVID stuff going on. It's exciting to see them grow up and get out of my house, if you will. But I have two more that I'm still homeschooling. I've homeschooled from the very, very beginning, including math. And so we're going to talk about math today and what it takes to be a great math teacher. So let's get started. The first question is identifying where you are. Do you personally struggle with math? And if so, the question comes in, what can I use to avoid that same fate with your child? You want them to do well with math, just like in every other subject, right? What if, though, you are good at math? What curriculum do you use, and how can you teach it? I know for me, I'm a piano major, and so music came so naturally for me. But when I started teaching piano lessons, some of the elements, basic elements that came to me so naturally made it extremely difficult to teach. For example, like, how do you teach a beat? How do you teach, a rhythm? That was really difficult for me. And it might be the same thing with you. If you're good at math, some of the basic elements that came natural to you are difficult to then teach your child. Should you include manipulatives? Should you not include manipulatives? If you do, which ones do you choose? And then what in the world do you do with them once you get them home? What does it take to be the best math teacher for your child? 40% of what your child learns depends on you. And I would venture to say if you are a homeschooling mom, that percentage is significantly increased. But you're doing a great job. You've already taught them how to speak. You've taught them how to feed themselves, hopefully. You've taught them how to dress themselves. They've learned their colors, their shapes, and their sounds. You are giving them the opportunities to learn. And so you're doing a great job so far. But with teaching math, there is a science to teaching math. In fact, there's new research on how children learn, how their brain works, how they absorb the information. There's also an art to teaching math. Each child is different. And if you have more than one child, you know how that is. They all behave differently. They have different type of personalities. But if you are their teacher, you also discover that they learn differently. I have 4 kids. They all learn very differently. What one works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. In fact, you have to tweak the lessons to get each individual child to understand what they're learning. I have 2 struggling learners in my home. And so when I would approach a lesson, whether it be math or any other subject, I would find myself having to stop and either review the topic again or rewording a phrase or saying something in such a way that I know that child will be able to understand. So you will find yourself taking a lesson, and then what works with one child may not work quite with another one, so you have to kind of tweak it up a little bit. Mental development depends on giving opportunities to learn. Complex activities create significant brain development. Research finds that the same development does not happen with rote learning. Rote learning is simply memorized learning. For example, learning the alphabet or skip counting. It's interesting to know that your brain does not develop as much when they're rote learning as when they are doing complex activities, puzzle solving, that type of thing. Intelligence is not fixed. Yay! That's the good news for me. We can continue to grow our intelligence, but that is grown by learning. I love this quote. It says, "What you have been obliged to discover by yourself leaves a path in your mind that you can use again when the need arises." So what this is saying is that the things you've had to work for, the things that you've had to struggle in to learn, that kind of burns a pathway in your mind so that you can remember, you can figure out how to learn later on. A good example of this was I used to work in a company in the retirement program, and I had to balance millions of dollars each week when payroll was done. And one week I was off, get this, $32.56. And I worked days and days and days running all kinds of reports and figuring out ways to find that $32.56. Here's the thing. 25 plus years later, I still remember the exact dollar value. I've burned that pathway in my mind, I can assure you. But the same thing happens with our child. When we have worked to discover, worked to figure something out, we leave a pathway for them to use later on when they are learning another concept. So we're going to cover several different topics, things that you can use in your math class. Here are the topics, and then we'll go through them one by one. Watch their attitude with math, nurture a strong number sense, allow time for thinking, foster self-confidence and independent thinking, provide games and puzzles, encourage hard work and growth mindset, and choose a good math curriculum. So let's start with watching your attitude with math. Never tell your child that you are bad at math, you personally. Never tell them that you dislike math, especially mothers to daughters. Research shows that as soon as a mother shares her negative ideas with her daughter, the daughter's achievements drop. Interestingly enough, it does not react the same way with sons. But I would just say this, when you present a negative view towards something, in a sense, you're giving license to your child to adopt that. And if you are a math struggler and you're trying to break that rotation, make sure that you don't give them permission to react the same way to math as you do. So present yourself in such a way that math is not that bad. We can work through this. Math is actually fun. It's interesting. So don't let them adopt your deep down feelings. Math education depends on what the teacher believes, what the teacher knows and does. Believe in the importance of math for daily living, future careers, and understanding of our world. You know, math is used in every single career, whether they're going to be a McDonald's worker or an engineer. It doesn't matter the career. So your belief in that and your encouragement for your child to absorb what they need to use for their future helps them grow an interest and a like for math. Know that the math brain is a myth. I've heard so many people say, well, I just don't have that math brain, or I just don't think like that. My mind doesn't work that way. But that's a myth. Everybody has the capability to learn math. Instead, radiate joy for math and help your child develop a love for math. I always love that phrase, radiate joy, because I can just picture some of you guys right now. You're saying, excuse me, I have absolutely no joy with this particular subject, and that's okay. But you are to demonstrate this interest in math. Help your child to realize that there is something to be discovered in math, just like science. In fact, math is a science. What are we going to learn today? Oh, I cannot wait until we get going in math, because you are going to have so much fun with figuring this out. Present math in a joyful way, in a happy way, not like, oh, I don't want to do math today. You know, they feel that and they react to that. So your presentation of the subject will help them either enjoy math or learn to dislike math. By the way, arithmetic is one of the elements in math. And in fact, many curriculum focus almost exclusively during their elementary years on arithmetic. And what I'm talking about with arithmetic is adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, right? But there are so many more elements to math. Take a look. Geometry. Take a look at all of these elements in math. There's more than 200 math branches in math. Okay, so your child is not wildly thrilled with arithmetic. That's okay. There are other elements. In fact, one of my sons, I told you he's a struggling learner. Arithmetic was really hard for him. I'm not going to lie. It was really hard for him. He has memory deficiency, so memorizing and learning things was quite complex for him. But I gave him a geometry lesson and his eyes would light up. He just loved it and ate it up. In fact, there were a couple of times when we'd have a couple of days in a row of geometry lessons and he was like, let's do more, let's do more. So if you are feeding your child a strict diet of arithmetic and they are getting frustrated, they're getting tired, their love of math is starting to dwindle, I encourage you to find another element of math to teach, because you just might find that you are energizing them with a whole nother element of learning in math that reaches their deep need and their strength. So watch their attitude with math. The next thing we're going to talk about is nurturing a strong number sense. So number sense. Let's talk about that for a minute. If you don't have an image in your mind, that word does not have a meaning, right? So let's think about foreign languages. In fact, a lot of programs out there that teach foreign languages start exactly like that. They show a picture and then they tell you what the word is in that language, right? Entire curriculums are written about that. So let's apply that to math. All right, you have to see a quantity in your mind in order to attach the word. So many curriculums start with like the symbol, like 7 or 5. I'm trying to write backwards, so if that's backwards, ignore that. But they want a lot of curriculums focus on that symbol. But let's step it back a little bit and let's talk about what quantities are. Arithmetic is based on quantities, by the way. And what we want to do is start the child with what they already know. So if you were to say, McKenna, show me 3, they're going to show you 3, right? Okay, now we're going to take what they know and we're going to put it into a manipulative where they can not only see as easily, but they can also expand their understanding. So we're going to show 3 beads. Again, quantities, all right? Once they're getting that down, then you say, okay, now here's the symbol for 3, all right? Let's go on. How many is that? And if you are on the other side of that screen, go ahead and shout out that number. Nobody's going to hear you, so we're not going to giggle or anything. So how many is that? That's 5, right? So show me 5 beads, and we have the 5 blue beads. Now take a look. All of my fingers in one hand covers all of the blue beads, right? Okay, so we're associating something that they know with something that's easy for them to grasp. Then we show them the symbol. All right, how about this number? How many is that? 7, right. 7, so we'll show 7 beads. Now take a look. Again, we have all the blue beads representing the one hand, and we have 2 yellow beads representing the other hand. 7, easy to see, easy to identify. Once they get that, then we show them the symbol. 10, everybody's favorite, 10. And then we show the beads, the correlating to the number 10, which would be 5 blue beads, 5 yellow beads. And then again, this is the symbol for 10. Now, how do we take what we've learned associating the abacus to arithmetic? So let's start with this problem. What is 4 plus 3? I'm going to scoot 4 beads over, and I'm going to scoot another 3 beads over and squish them together. We've seen that before, haven't we? How many is that? That's 7. So we start with a problem in symbols. We break it down into beads to help them understand, to visualize, and then we take it back up into symbols. So yes, I can hear some of you say, yeah, but I teach my child to count. I mean, that's not a problem. We use a number line or whatever. So let me tell you what that looks like for the child. Because you are already familiar with with adding, so you already know 2 plus 2 is 4, right? I'm going to change that up a little bit, and we're going to associate numbers to letters. So A is equal to 1, B 2, C 3, and so on. All right, so here's our problem. We have F plus E. What is F plus E? Well, let's get our number line out, ready? And we're going to go up to F, A, B, C, D, E, F, good. And we're going to add to that E, A, B, C, D, E. Very good. Now, unfortunately, we have to start all the way at the beginning to figure out what the solution is. So let's count up, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, okay, K. There we go. So F plus E equals K. Now we've got it, right? So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of problems here, and we're going to solve them because you know how to do it, right? Okay, so what is E plus I? Anybody? E plus I? Okay, maybe that's a little too hard. Let's go back to D plus C. Anybody on that one? Come on, come on, come on, come on. No, that's hard, isn't it? And yet we're asking our children to do the exact same thing, but with numbers. However, if we have our equation and we can see how many they are, the quantity, taking a look at the quantity, it makes much more sense and it's much easier to get to that answer, isn't it? Visualizing the answer. Place value from a child's perspective. I love this. L is written AB because it is A, J, and B, A's. What was that? Okay, let me break it down. L, which is 12, is written 1, 2 because it is 1, 10 and 2 ones. That's what place value looks like from a child. Children think of 14 as 14 individual ones and not a 10 and 4 ones. And one of the reasons is because our teens number doesn't make any sense. The pattern is lost. It's not created until we get to 20. You know, when you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all of those weird numbers, then all of a sudden you hit this pattern. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. You know, I'm talking about that pattern. But those middle numbers, those teen numbers, there's no pattern in them. So they don't see how the place value works, tens and ones. So we are going to have the child speak in place value. We call it transparent place value. And this is generally how it works. So tell me, how many tens are there? There's 1 10, right? Okay. How many tens are there now? There are 2 tens, right? So let's build upon that. Let's talk about tens and ones. We discovered that that is 2 10, and then how many ones are there? 4. So we're going to call that number 2 10 4. How many are there now? Let's try it out. 2 10 8. Good. How about now? Go ahead and say it to your screen. Give yourself some practice. 3 10. How about now? How many beads are showing there? 3 10 6. Okay, so let's apply that. When you're having your child, instead of having your child count, we're going to have our children speak in place value. And it's going to look something like this: 10, 10, 1, 10, 2, 10, 3, 10, 4, and so forth. 2, 10, 2, 10, 1, 2, 10, 2, 2, 10, 3, all the way up to 9, 10, 9. And I'm already hearing you guys say that. I'm hearing it through your screen. You're saying, oh, but wait a minute, my child already knows how to count. This is going to confuse them. And I'm going to say back to you, yes, your child may already know this, but it's not going to confuse them. Children are so much more resilient than we give them credit for. And when my kids were in math and I transitioned them into place value number naming, my child would say, let's say 22. They would say, that answer is 22. And I say, great. But can we say this in the math way? How would you say this number in the math way? Oh, 2 10 2. Okay, so you can transition them over into place value naming of numbers. It's not going to throw them off, but it will give them a huge leg up in their understanding of place value. Why do we do this? There's 2 reasons. One, for patterning. I kind of already discussed that a little bit, but I want to demonstrate what the pattern looks like. So we're talking about 3 million, 3,000, 300, and then you hear 30? No, 310. Do you hear that? If I were to say 3 million, 3,000, 330, you lose that. But if I go back and say 3 million, 3,000, 300, 310, we see that pattern, okay? It also helps them really establish place value in their mind. Children learn in so many different ways. They learn visually, they learn kinesthetically, they also learn auditorily. That's a new word, I just created it. But anyway, by them hearing themselves saying the place value out loud, it helps absorb that concept so much greater than if they were to just see it on paper. Okay, so having them say that number in a place value way really gives them a leg up in their learning. So we discovered that this is 310, right? All right, let's add the visual element to it. And we're going to use place value cards. So here is 310, and I love how this works. You're going to just like being like, this is great. I love how this works. Okay, so 310 has 2 syllables, 310. 30 or 310 has 2 digits, 2 syllables, 310, 2 digits, okay? What about this number? We said this was 3, 10, 7, right? We're going to pull our place value cards, 3, 10, and 7. And we're going to tell our kids that when we write that number, we're going to squish it together. We're going to line it up on the right-hand side, and we're going to squish that number and layer that 7 on top of the 3. Now, if you are not sure if your child understands place value very well, I would recommend you asking them this question. If you see this number, 3, 7, next to each other, which number is greater, the 3 or the 7? Most kids who do not understand place value, what are they going to say? They're going to say that number 7 is bigger, aren't they? You're going to pull those cards apart. Pull those cards apart. And you're going to say, wait a minute, what does that 3 represent? It's not just 3, right? It's representing 3 tens. So the 3 tens is larger than 7, right? So that's a good way for you to figure out if your child is grasping place value or not. Let's continue on. How many is this? 6, 10. Which, by the way, I want you to take a look at the abacus. Notice the bead color changes. You have 5 rows that start with the blue beads. And then you have the next 5 rows that start with the yellow beads. Why do we do that? Why is it flipped like that? Because we don't want you to have to count the rows. So just like on the very top row, you have 5 blue beads and 5 yellow beads. You don't have to count 6, right? You have 5 and then 1 more bead. Same thing with the rows. 5 rows and then it flips to 6. So just pointing that out. So 6, 10 has 5 rows of blue beads and 1 extra row that starts with the yellow beads. All right, what's this number? 6, 10, 2. And we're going to show the cards and then we're going to stack them up. How many is this? 10 tens, 10, 10, or it's also known as what? I've heard all of you guys say that up front. 100, 100. Oh, and isn't this great? 3 syllables, 100 for 3 digits. Isn't that awesome? All right, so when I taught my kids, I always got them giggling on this. I said, the only time you're allowed to stick your tongue out at me is when we're talking place value. So I would say 310, 300, 3 syllables, 3,000, 4 digits, 4 syllables. And of course, the kids all giggled. So we had fun with that. Have fun with math, radiate joy, right? Okay. So when you're building large numbers, this is kind of how it would look. You would pull your place value cards and then stack them up, again, lining them up on the edge. So that's what that would look like. Just as reciting the alphabet doesn't teach reading, counting does not teach arithmetic, right? So if I had my child learn the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and so forth, if they learn that, I can't go to them and say, okay, now spell cat, sweetie, right? They have to first understand the sound of the letters, right? The C makes the K sound, the A makes the A sound, the T makes the T sound. They have to know how those letters work and how they function. Same thing with numbers. They have to understand the quantity, and transparent naming of numbers help the child do that. Interestingly enough, Asian children learn math using the math way of naming numbers. It's built into their language. I had a student come to me, an exchange student come to me, I think it was in Indianapolis a couple years ago. And he came to my table because he was fascinated with some of the manipulatives I had out. And I asked him, I said, so where are you from? And he said, Japan. And I said, great, can you tell me how you say the number 11? And I don't remember what he said. However, I said, if you translated that word specifically into the English language, what would it actually say? And he said 10-1. I'm like, oh, Asian children know their math. Why? Because, or they understand place value by the end of their first grade. Why is that? Because it's built into their language. Sadly, only half of the US children understand place value at the end of 4th grade. Oh my goodness. So what do they do when they're working on adding multi-digit addition and they're having to carry their ones? And if they don't understand place value, no wonder they're forgetting where the ones or twos or threes are being carried. What about the subtraction, multi-digit subtraction? How do you borrow? Why do you borrow? It doesn't make sense to them because they don't understand place value. Math is a science of patterns. The patterned way of naming numbers greatly helps kids learn, understand, I'm going to say not just learn, but understand number sense. Then after they have that good grasp, then we'll go back and teach traditional names. And they're going to already know those anyway. So most likely they hear it all the time on Sesame Street, if nothing else. So don't worry about that transition. It comes so naturally. It has with all of my kids, even my struggling learners. I encourage you not to have these random recital of counting numbers 10 to 100. One, it's not really benefiting them overly, getting them familiar with numbers, but it doesn't help them understand the concept of the role of each number. However, when you say the number namer, the transparent number naming, it gives order and clarity to the numbers. It helps them understand place value. Make place value a natural part of numbers. So we talked about number sense a lot. I'm sorry about that. I went on for a little too long on that one, I think. But that was a really important element that they need to learn. Now let's take a step out of that and talk about allowing your child time to think. And this is really hard for me. I am that type A person. I don't know anybody out there, type A. I love my checkoff lists. I love my schedules. And I find that if I'm a little bit behind in my schedule and my child is not learning as fast as I think they should, I like to hurry them along, right? So I'll ask a question. And if they're not answering me quick enough or lingering a little too long, I like to kind of help them out, right? We need to give our kids time to think through. Let them process. I love this quote. It says this: I have never committed math facts to memory. Let's stop right there. What? Let's read this again. I have never committed math facts to memory, although I can quickly produce any math fact, as I have good number sense and I have learned good ways to think about number combinations. My lack of memorization has never held me back at any time or place in my life, even though, get this, I am a mathematics professor. Did you catch that? She has never memorized her math facts. She understands how math works. She understands quantities. Therefore, she can apply it and doesn't need to memorize her math facts. Oh, wouldn't that have been great when I was growing up? A fact is considered to be known if it can be recalled in 2 to 3 seconds. One thing I have kind of struggled with is in other subjects, we allow our child time to think. For example, if we're teaching history and we're saying, okay, so what year did the American Revolution occur? We give them time to think about it, right? Oh, that was, okay. But what about math? What is 2 plus 2? Come on, come on. We expect them to be quick and know it right away. And we don't allow them time to kind of process. I have 2 children in my home who are just slow processors. In fact, 2 or 3 seconds can take like 4, maybe 5 seconds for them to process. And if I give them that time to think through it, I know if they know it. I know if they don't know it. Give them time. It gives them time to visualize and then produce the fact. So visualizing that abacus. So if I'm saying, what is 4 plus 3? Give them time to picture those beads in their minds and then say 7. Give them time. Visual strategies help them learn their facts. What is a strategy? A strategy is a way to learn a new fact or recall a forgotten fact. Visual representation is a very powerful strategy. Let me show you how it works. So if I have 9 plus 5, we're going to what we call complete the 10. All right, so let's start with showing what 9 plus 5 looks like on the abacus. And I would ask my child, show me 9 plus 5 on the abacus. Great. Now, I am a tens thinker, so I would call this the magic 9 is actually what we called it because Harry Potter was out at the time. We call it the magic 9. The magic 9 can become a 10 if it really wanted to, because 10, wouldn't you agree with me? 10 is so much easier to add to a number than 9, right? Okay, so we're going to make 9 magically turn to 10. So, but to do that, we have to exchange a couple beads. So 9, we're going to exchange that 9 to a 10. We're going to add one more bead, but we have to take away 1 from 5. So we play this game. Ready? On your mark, get set, trade. So that 9 became 10, but that 5 went down. So our answer is 14, right? Let's do another one. 9 plus 7. Let's make that 9 a 10, right? On your mark, get set, trade. 16. My kids got so good with that. Most of my kids got so good with that. They would see the 9, go to that 7, reduce it 1, and just simply say 16. They were just that quick. 16. There's another strategy out there. It's called the 2 5s. What's interesting is all 3 of my boys did the 10. They think just like me. They think in 10s. However, my daughter, she is a 5s thinker. She breaks everything up into 5s. Let me show you how this looks on the abacus. If I have 8 plus 6, take a look. How many blue beads do I have? Do you see the 2 5s? 5 plus 5 is 10, right? How many yellow beads do I have left? 4. So my answer is 14. So my daughter, when she sees something like 8 plus 6, she sees the 5. She sees 8, I have 3 extra. 6, I have 1 extra. I have 4. That's just how she thinks. Not all children will think exactly like you. So providing them with a variety of strategies, you'll hit the nail on their head on their way of learning and understanding. Let's do another one with a 2 5 strategy. 7 plus 5, how many yellow beads are there? 2. 12, right? See how easy that is? Cool. Subtraction. Okay, this is what I call the cleanup method. Okay, so we'll take 15 minus 9. And we're going to take the 5 away first, part of the 9, and then the remaining 4, and we're left with 6. That's one way. Another way is we'll take all of the 9 from the top wire, 15. So we're going to subtract 9 from the 10, which gives us, again, amazingly enough, 6, right? I have a son who does every single subtraction problem as an addition problem. That's just how he thinks. So to do this strategy, he's going to start with the 9, and he's going to ask himself, what do I need to add to 9 to get to 15? And the answer is 6. Now, question, did it matter which method you used? Does it matter how you thought? No. The answer is the same regardless of your preferred strategy, right? And so what we want to do is give our kids various ways to solve a problem, and they are going to adopt one. One's just going to just be like, yeah, that's it. That's how I understand it. That's how I think. And then you've given them the strategies they need to get to those solutions much quicker. Visual strategies help them learn their facts. Rely on number sense. Avoid flashcards, speed drills, and time tests. These create anxiety, especially with girls. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you struggle with anxiety for math. If that is you, probably, and you will probably, I can see your heads nodding already. One of the reasons for that anxiety is because of those timed drills, those timed tests. Interestingly enough, those tests do not help the kids get to those answers quicker. The flashcards do not help your child get to those answers quicker. In fact, it does a little bit more towards the opposite. If you are showing a flashcard and your child doesn't know the answer, it's not going to help them learn it. Instead, it's going to remind them what they do not know, right? The time tests, the speed tests, it's not helping them learn their math facts. It's reminding them what they do not know. Okay. I was good with the time tests. I loved them. Why is that? Because I knew all the answers and it made me feel good. Okay. So it didn't necessarily help me learn anymore. I just got a little bit of encouragement, a pat on my back. However, the child that is struggling, these things are stressful for them. It worries them, and they don't want to look bad in front of their mom and dad, right? So let's pull those away from your math teaching diet and instead give them tools that they can use to help your child learn their math facts. Foster self-confidence and independent thinking. Be encouraging. I know you guys are already doing that, but be encouraging, even especially when they are struggling on a concept. If your child is just like, with something, say, hey, you are doing a great job. Look where you were 2 weeks ago. Look where you were a month ago. See how much you've learned since then? You're doing great. Let's just keep plugging away. And in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, yes, I got this. So encourage your child to work through those stresses. Realize that there is more than one way to do calculations. Some are more efficient than others, and your child may not think the way you do, which means if you are teaching them one specific way because it works for you, have them learn a different way, even if it's not comfortable for you, because your child may think this other way, okay? There's more than one way to solve a problem. Not everything needs to be written down. I have 2 children with dyslexia, and writing is unbearable for them at times. So we would do a lot of things verbally, or I would have them write on the whiteboard, or I would write on the whiteboard for them. Ask the child to explain their logic. One day, one of my struggling learners, I gave them a really difficult problem, and I thought, there's no way he's going to solve this. In my head, I didn't say that out loud, but of course, and he answered it, and he answered it correctly. And I'm like, was that a guess? Did he really know what he was doing? So I said, can you tell me how you got to that answer? And I still don't know to this day what he did, but he was showing me all of this with his hands, and he explained it in his language. I don't know what he was saying, but he got it right. And I gave him another problem, and he got it right. And so his method of solving the problem worked for him. I didn't understand it, but by him explaining it to me, let me know that he knew what he was doing. Help your child identify where errors are made so they can avoid them in the future. Sometimes us math moms, we love to get our ink pen out and we love to mark the answers and give the worksheet back and say, okay, fix the ones you got wrong, or just put the answers or put the grade in the grade book. What I like to do is circle up 1 or 2 problems that they struggled on, that I see something in there that they've been struggling with a little bit lately. And I want them to evaluate where their error was made. And what that does is a couple things. Is one, it doesn't let them know that I've marked all of these wrong on their paper and they're getting a bad grade. But instead, we're focusing in on this one problem, and they are actually evaluating, figuring out what they did wrong, which then helps them in future problems. Oh yeah, this is the kind of problem where I forget to carry my number or whatever it is. Help them identify where those errors are. You not telling them where they are, but them figuring it out. And then that helps them avoid those same problems in the future. Mastery is achieved through thinking, not blindly following an example, okay? Mastery is not practicing some rule over and over and over again. I'm going to bring up Pythagorean theorem, right? Pythagorean theorem. How many of you remember what the Pythagorean theorem is? But I know we've had to do it over and over and over in school. Mastery is not doing something over and over and over. It's actually understanding what you're doing. It's a continuing process of learning. Some frustration is a normal part of learning. I've mentioned that before. Sometimes there are days when your child just going to be frustrated. Help them learn to push through those. Develop a concentration on them. In this day of digital everything, kids are like these quick things. Concentration, though, is pulling out of that quick world and developing an element of being able to focus in for a period of time. Now, if you have an ADHD child, your time may be very, very small. Start very simple. Focus in on 5 seconds. If you have a good independent learner, it might be 30 minutes, but develop that over time, okay? Develop it. So a 5-year-old is going to have a shorter time, but over the years, you want to develop that into longer and longer periods of time for their deep concentration to occur. Foster confidence and independent thinking. Provide games and puzzles. Why play games? Games are to math like books are to reading. Games provide interesting repetition that are required for automatic responses. More importantly, games provide an application for learning new information. So I'm going to cover 2 games real quick. Go to the dump, which is like a Go Fish game. So when you're playing Go Fish, you're matching like a card for card, right? So if I have a 2, I'm matching the 2. However, in this particular game, we're going to find pairs that total 10. So our pairs are going to be 1 and 9. 1 plus 9 equals 10. 4 plus 6 equals 10, right? And so those are going to be our pairs. When we play games, though, one thing I'd like to share with you is always, always, always have your abacus or tool so that they can look up the answers, the problems that they do not know. So if I have a 3 in my hand and I do not remember what goes with 3 to total 10, look it up. That's what helps break through the numbers, the problems that they do not know. The looking up of the resource, okay? You have that resource available so they can figure out the things that they do not know. Another game I'm going to share with you is Ring Around the Products. Multiplication is hard for many kids, so having a fun way of practicing their multiplication facts is a great way for them to practice and learn their math facts. Okay, so we're going to start with instructions. This is a game to review multiplication math facts. The goal, of course, is to collect the most cards. And you start with 6 product cards in the middle. So if you don't remember what a product is simply the result of a multiplication problem. So if I have 2 times 3, my product is 6, right? Okay, so that's the answer. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So I have 6 product cards in the middle, and I'm going to surround that or ring around it all of these basic cards 1 to 10. All right, now we're going to play the game. 54, we'll start with 54. What 2 numbers multiply together to equal 54? Anybody? 9 times 6 equals 54. So I have my pairs. So I'm going to pull those off to the side. That's where I'm going to start my stacks. My next number and my next product number is 12. What 2 numbers multiply together to equal 12? Well, I know 3 and 4 multiply together to equal 12, but I don't have a 4 on this list, so that doesn't work. What about 6 and 2? There we go, 6 and 2. So I'm going to pull those off to the side. 42, what 2 numbers multiply together to equal 42? I know 7 times 6, I don't have a 6, so that one won't work. Okay, let's go to the next one. 50, 5 times 10, that one's an easy one, but I don't have the 10, so we'll move on. 15. 3 times 5 equals 15, so I can add that to my pile. And 9 is 3 times 3, but I only have 1 3, so that won't work. So I'll just fill in my, oh yeah, I forgot, 1 times 9 also. Thank you, whoever said that. 1 times 9 also equals 9, but I don't have the 9. So we'll fill in the rest of the cards and we'll continue on. A fun way to practice multiplication. By the way, when I played games with my kids, particularly one child, I had to set the timer, because he just wanted to play these card games all day long. And can you imagine saying to your child what I said to mine? Parker, we need to stop practicing our math facts. We need to do history. All because he wanted to keep playing card games. Isn't that amazing? Wouldn't you love to hear yourself saying that in your home? So provide games and puzzles. They're fun for the kids, engaging for the kids, but it gives them a way to practice. Encourage hard work and growth mindset. Encourage your child to persist, to learn, to grow. Encourage them to do this. I know it's hard today, and maybe we'll put it away from today, but we'll hit this again tomorrow. Let's push through this. I know that you've got this in you. Take a little break and come back to it. Encourage your child to keep working on it. They're going to need that in the rest of their life. So this is a life skill that you're teaching them. Don't constantly dispense rewards, verbal or otherwise. If you are that parent that hands an M&M to them every time they get a correct answer, I would encourage you to maybe find another way. Yes, we want to encourage them verbally, but help them develop this self-sense of accomplishment. I did this. Yes, I did this. It causes, if you don't, it causes the child to rely on you for the assurance, and you're not always going to be there in every element of their life. They need to rely on their own self-encouragement as they grow. This is a great quote. It says, all progress takes place outside the comfort zone. We are all outside our comfort zones right now. In fact, one element, my husband came to me and goes, my hair's getting, this is yesterday, my hair's getting long, can you cut it? And I'm like, what? Cut your hair? I'm not comfortable cutting people's hair, but I cut his hair, it looked fine, yay. But that being said, I was placed outside my comfort zone, and his dad then last night saw him through Zoom and says, hey, your hair looks great. Who'd you have cut it? I didn't think anybody was open. And he's like, my wife did. And he just sent her over. Anyway, that being said, taking out of your comfort zone helps us to grow, right? And you all have elements in your life where you know you can pinpoint that time when you have had this massive growth, and it was because you were taken out of your comfort zone. We want to do that with our children a little bit. Take them out of their realm of comfort, and they will grow. Choose a good math curriculum. How do you choose a good math curriculum? There's so many out there. I'm going to give you some few little tips to help you along the way. First off, and most importantly, look at the author's credentials. Look at them. Look at their philosophy for teaching math. Is it based on understanding? Does it incorporate manipulatives? Does it include real life application? That would be like word problems or places where you can apply it to things that they're going to be doing the rest of their lives. Look at the objectives. What is being taught throughout the curriculum, throughout the level, throughout the year, and then what is being taught in the future? Is it more than just arithmetic? If your diet is only arithmetic, you need to expand that. Make sure that they're learning all elements of math. Engineers many times think geometrically. So if we are teaching our children only arithmetic and they are to be an engineer one day, we are selling them short. Give them all a varied diet of different elements in math. Are you actively involved in teaching? And I can already see some of your eyes. Some of you are doing this. Some of you are ready to hit that stop button. But before you hit that stop button, let me talk to you about this for a minute. Be actively involved in their teaching. I don't know what kind of curriculum you will be using. If it is a script where you're following along, if it is a computer screen, if it is a TV, whatever it is that you are having your child learn their math through, be involved. I cannot tell you how many times I've had people come to my booth at a convention and say, I thought my child knew it. They thought they did because the computer said, oh, they were getting good enough grades or their worksheets showed enough progress. However, if you are with your child and you're saying, okay, what is 3 plus 7? And they're like, 10? Okay, you know they don't have it, right? That feedback is what you need so that you know how to progress from there, okay? Be involved in their learning. So choosing a good curriculum. And to conclude, I want you to think about these things. And I love this segment here. Each time a child discovers the beauty of math, a region of their brain lights up. Interestingly enough, this is the same region of the brain that lights up when an artist finds beauty in math and art. We want our child's eyes to light up when you're teaching. The discovery that, oh, we want to have that in our classroom, right? And it can happen in math. Help them see those patterns. Help them to see that when they learn it this way and this way and then this way, they're like, oh, I didn't know those related. Okay, help them find that, discover that beauty in math. Here are some things that I'd like to share with you. Bonnie, who's 13, she was learning about golden ratio, and she said this. It's just one of those, think about a 13-year-old saying, it's just one of those things in life that make you feel satisfied to know. Oh, wouldn't you love your 13-year-old to say something like that? You cannot love what you do not know. This is from Ben. He was learning to draw tangent arcs, and this was his worksheet, and he doodled in the middle of his worksheet. Look at this. I love math. Wouldn't you love to see your child doodle on the side of their worksheet or work paper, whatever it is? I love math. Being a great math teacher, you can do it. I know you can do it.